Hello, David here. I thought I would do something a little bit different today and talk about space travel. I know that the bulk of the population have expressed an interest into going into space. One study said that 70% of the population indicated they'd love to do 2 weeks in space as space tourists. And when NASA has an astronaut opening for their class, then we might get 20,000 people apply for 30, 40, 50 positions tops. So there is a lot of interest in space travel. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's a trip of a lifetime. I totally get it, and I support it. I am NASA through and through. But there are some interesting other things that happen in space, and I think it's good to be aware of them. It starts when you blast off from the tower. You are subject to G forces on the order of 4G or so, and so the blood in your body tends to go straight to your feet, which makes you feel somewhat lightheaded. You don't typically get a blackout, but you may get a period of not being quite so conscious, maybe a gray out, something that fighter pilots can experience. So that's the first thing that happens. And then within a few minutes, you reach orbit or you reach microgravity. And what happens then is that the blood rushes to your head. And when blood rushes to your head, the brain tissue starts to swell. You can experience periods of nasal blockage. 2/3 of astronauts have had experience of problems with their eyes, and your face swells. And if you're vain like me, you don't really want a swollen face, but that's the least of the issues. Fairly quickly after you have reached orbit, you are experiencing weightlessness, and your body very quickly adjusts. Your bone structure, your skeleton, does not have to support the weight of your body like it does on Earth. So your bones start to shrink. Calcium goes into your blood and your bones become more brittle. We call it bone demineralization, You'd think maybe it's not too bad, but it's on the order of 1 to 2% a month. So imagine how much bone loss you could have in a year's mission. So bone demineralization is a problem. It does tend to reverse when you come back to Earth, but not to the degree it happens in the loss. So you get an improvement, but not back to the way it was pre-flight. Secondly, your muscles do not have to bear the weight of lifting things, including your body. So your muscles also shrink, they atrophy, which is why we combat that as best we can by putting exercise equipment on the space station and other space vehicles so that astronauts can exercise a couple of hours a day and keep their muscles in better shape than they would be if they didn't have that. The next thing that happens is you get a conflict between the balance systems in your eyes and your ears because there is no up and down. This can lead to disorientation, both in blast-off and in this period. You can also get nausea and vomiting. It's a challenge. Another thing that happens is that your immune system doesn't work as well. We're really not quite sure why. We've done studies with fruit flies, and admittedly, we are not fruit flies, but studies with fruit flies showed that their white cells were not as good at taking hold of microorganisms and fighting off infection. So you could potentially have a disease problem, though we haven't seen a lot of that, at least not that I'm aware of. Another thing that happens is you're in a small cabin with a few people. You have the whole universe to look out at, true, but you can't reach it, you can't touch it. And after a period of time, you can become a little disoriented. We all know how it is in the COVID pandemic when you're shut up with just a few people and not allowed of outside interactions. It puts a challenge, and it can be depressing and upsetting. You're also cut off from your family and friends. I mean, you have interactions, but it's very limited. So this can be a challenge also. As I said, you can get disorientation because there's not the up and down that there is on Earth. And sleeplessness is a problem. When you're in space, you're weightless, so you would float. So to sleep, you have to be in a sleeping bag that you tether to a wall. Sometimes you slide into a drawer or cupboard or something like that. But it's not the greatest situation to sleep in. You've got the excitement of space, you've got the heavy work circuit, and then you've got this weirdness that goes along with sleeping in an unusual manner. Additionally, when you eat, the food is okay, but not gourmet, to put it mildly. Of course, everything in the cabin fluids is recycled, so you're drinking recycled urine. It's pure, but it still would be something that would maybe play on your mind. And you're cut off from people, so presents some challenges. You can get depression and other things that result from that. And then another thing to mention is space radiation. We do not have the ability to shield thoroughly. We shield fairly well, but there's still a large exposure to radiation. This can have very bad effects on the body. Potentially, it could lead to cancer. We haven't seen that, but it could happen. And we really don't yet have the ability to shield radiation to a much better degree. So trips into space are really challenging. They make a lot of effects on your body, and while some of those reverse when you come back to a large degree, bone demineralization, for one, does not. So lengthy space duration missions are a problem, and as we get longer and longer missions, they're liable to become more and more of a problem. So what do we take from all this? I thought you would find it interesting. I think another thing is, let's think about how brave our astronauts are. They know about these effects. They not only have the courage to ride into space, they have the courage to deal with the effects that they know are going to happen to their body. Another thing to take from it is that when you go into space, it's like a period of rapid aging. And NASA comes up with ways, as best we can, to combat that aging. What we learn doing this, we can bring back to Earth and apply it to dealing with people as they get older to help them potentially with the aging process. So there are lots of challenges, there are lots of good things that come out of it, but I thought you would be interested in knowing some of these things, knowing what they are, taking extra pride in our astronauts, and just being aware that going into space is fun, it's wonderful. I would never, ever discourage it. But it does present challenges, and NASA does its very best to address them and overcome them to the maximum extent possible. So thank you for listening. I hope you found this interesting. If you have any questions or comments, let me know and I will address them to the best of my ability. Please subscribe to my channel and get your friends to. And thank you for listening. Take care until next time.